Okay guys, so in this video you will see my first public speech experience ever. I was speaking at an InSpiral event here in Budapest. It's a community of like-minded people who want to learn to become better public speakers, storytellers, people who want to learn more about self-development, okay? And I think it is a wonderful community and I want to thank everyone involved for giving me this opportunity, alright? Now, the story is quite long. It's very personal, so feel free to pause it anytime you want, come back to it later, save it in your watch later list, whatever it may be. It is quite long, so I warn you beforehand. It is, however, extremely personal, and I think that there is a lot of value to be found here, alright? Now, unfortunately, my camera only records 30 minutes and then it stops recording automatically, so I missed the end, which is pretty sad because there was a lot of good things that I talked about and people asked wonderful questions that I was able to answer quite thoroughly. So that's definitely a part that you guys missed out on, but maybe that's an invitation for you to either show up at an event where I speak in the future or just for me to, to think about this in advance. However, it's my first experience recording a speech like that as well, so I'm learning also the technicalities of it. So it's a process, okay? So I feel grateful that I was able to do this. I also really want to thank Patrick for joining me and helping me film the room from a few different angles so it keeps the story a little bit more entertaining. He did a great job. It was the first time he was handling a camera, so you can see maybe a few shaky movements, but I very much appreciate he doing this for me. It was a very beautiful gesture and I wanted to express my gratitude for that. I also want to thank Dan for joining me and keeping an eye on the camera while I was talking. I actually want to thank everyone who showed up and everyone who allowed me to bring this story. So I hope that you feel as excited as I am about this speech. I had a fantastic time doing it. You will see me lose my train of thought somewhere in the end because I got really distracted by the crowd and I don't know, somehow I became very self-conscious, so you will see me struggle with that a little bit, but I wanted to keep it in because I think it's a very authentic part of the speech, and it also shows that, when I look back on this speech being my first public speech, I have big ambitions and goals to continue this endeavor. I can look back to my first speech ever and see how much I kind of struggled in that moment and how far I have come since that, okay? So again, it's a pretty long speech, extremely personal, so feel free to pause it anytime you want. You can come back to it anytime, and please let me know your thoughts, your feedback, what you thought of it, the delivery, the story, whatever it may be, the thoughts that it stirs up in you. I want to hear everything because I want to improve my skills. I want to share better stories. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video. I'm super excited about it and I hope you will enjoy today's talk. All right, see you on the other side.
Please welcome on stage, Wolf!
Thank you, brother. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think it's a fantastic event, and I feel very home and comfortable here. And I think that you all are very beautiful, sensitive souls that want to improve yourselves, and that's absolutely my crowd. So I feel very thankful to be here. And I will share my personal story today. I hope I can inspire a few of you. And yeah, let's get started. So I want to start off with a question. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you really are? It's a question that I have asked myself many times growing up. As I was a child, I was very playful, very social, very sensitive. I could feel people's emotions, their moods, sometimes even before they even knew what they were feeling. I was so sensitive that it felt as if I had like a sixth sense to feel other people's energies, okay? Now this is important to remember because it will show to have a huge impact on how I developed through my adulthood and my younger years, okay? So I want you to imagine a scenario at kindergarten. You see the playground, the guys are playing rough and tumble, getting their clothes dirty. The girls, they are giggling or sitting next to the teacher, trying to learn something from her. And then there was this one boy sitting around the corner on a big log, wooden log, talking to a girl, trying to understand her emotions, her feelings, what she was thinking. I was 5 years old. That was me, sitting there, trying to relate, trying to feel, trying to get really accustomed with people, their emotions, especially women, girls, because I'm going to make a sweeping generalization now, but most women are a lot more intuitive than men are. And since I was so sensitive, I had a strong intuition and I resonated with women more than I did with men growing up. Now, as I grew older, there were a few things that started to emerge, okay? I started to feel very insecure. I started to feel like nobody really liked me. If 10 people would give me a compliment and one person would say something slightly off, that would be the thing that would run in my head all night. I couldn't sleep. I was literally just obsessing about this one negative thing, wondering what I did wrong. And I started to develop deep shame around that, okay? There were a few events that happened during my childhood years in kindergarten and elementary school that I will come back to later, but I will for now continue with the next part, which is my first development as a teenager, okay? I was a very early teenager. I grew up getting pubes and my voice dropping fairly early, so I also got relatively quickly interested in girls, because I already was, but now there became this sexual component to it, okay? And now, I was extremely scared to express that, because you know, in 4th grade, that's the time when children start to get interested in the opposite sex, and they start to tease one another about it. You know, oh, you like the girls, oh, you like the boys. And I was scared to death to be mocked, to be judged. I was so afraid. So I fell in love with a girl in my class. She was a wonderful, beautiful girl, the most beautiful girl in the class, obviously. And she was my secret crush. And after a few months of, you know, back and forth, making eye contact, this and that, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing things. And one day, we started like talking when we were alone, and apparently she was also interested in me. And I was so ecstatic, so elated, so immensely happy because I couldn't really believe it, okay? I was a person who would constantly look for negative things, people saying something negative about me. So I didn't really believe that a girl like her, the most beautiful girl in the class, would be interested in me. Why would she? I feel not so good, so why would she, okay? But the fact that she did felt kind of good for me. And so we started something. And it was a beautiful relationship, absolutely beautiful. Like the most romantic thing you can imagine, you know, the things that you see in the movies and everything, that was us. We were playing piano together, she was playing the violin, we were looking at each other, making this beautiful music together. And I remember a very particular scene where I went to Steiner School. I don't know if any of you know this. It's an alternative kind of education, like Waldorf school, maybe you know this. So in that school, we also have arts, and we do theater, and we do lots of different things, which I think definitely helped me develop as a person, not only the science and the languages and everything, but also more creative things. And one of the things is theater. And so I remember we were practicing the theater, and there was one scene where everyone was backstage or on the stage on one side of the stage, and then there was one part on the other side. And there were 3 minutes or so that me and her were there together and nobody could see us. And that was the moment we were both always looking forward to, because then we could, you know, be intimate together, kiss, and nobody would know. I was scared. Nobody could know about this relationship. This was a secret relationship because I was so scared that people would mock me, that people would judge me. But even though it was secret, it was incredibly real, in my opinion. Like, I always think back to it with a lot of nostalgia, okay? So she was also the first girl I kissed with, the first girl I got very close and intimate with, but we did everything in secret. Even her parents, they knew something was going on, but we kept it so well hidden that they actually didn't know that we were, you know, experimenting together. Anyways, a few years later, we went to different schools. you know, when you're that young and she goes to another city, I go to another city, things kind of like die down and the relationship naturally ended. But it was always something that I felt very connected to, and it served a big part in my development to understand that somebody could really appreciate me for who I am, because I didn't try to be different. I didn't try to hide myself when she was with me. And so that always kind of like stayed in my mind. Now, starting in high school, I entered high school and it was a completely new environment, right? The teenagers, a new school, you feel a little bit anxious, maybe you don't know what's happening, it's all new. And I immediately connected with one guy from my class and we became best friends, okay? Like the typical teenage best friend relationship where you do everything together, okay? You go to class together, when school ends you walk home together, when you get home you call each other, like before bedtime, you know, like all these things, you make homework together. Okay, we were just two hands on one belly, that's how we say in Belgium. I don't know if this is an expression you guys know, but we say this, two hands on one belly. And so we grew very close, okay? But, of course, I was also interested in girls. And again, in my class there was a very pretty, beautiful girl. She had long red hair, beautiful blue eyes. She was incredibly beautiful. And I catched her the first day when we got to school. We were sitting in a big circle and we were kind of like introducing each other, you know how it goes. And I catched her, like I saw her, and I was like, I gotta have this one. This is my new crush, okay? This is the new school, the new crush. I really would like to get to know her. But again, I felt insecure about it somehow. And so the days pass and I hang out with my best friend. And again, at some point, one of my friends tells me, you know, actually, this girl, she's actually really interested in you. And again, I'm so baffled. I couldn't believe that, again, the second time the girl I set my eye on was interested in me. How could that be? Now, again, they introduce me to her, we get connected, and again, we start a relationship very soon, very quickly. And this time, since I was a little bit more old, I had more hormones, it was even more intense, okay? You probably can relate. So it was even more intense. I was totally in love with this girl. Like, I was obsessed about her, okay? And since I am very sensitive and I want to connect deeply with people, I also wanted to be very close to her, like physically. I grew up, my parents were always carrying me around, close to them. I had a lot of physical touch. So a way for me to communicate that I really like someone is by being very physically close. Now, she was not really ready for that, okay? She was a year younger than I, because I'm born in 1992, so I was like a year ahead, okay? So she was like a year younger, so she was not really ready for that. But at that time, when you're younger, you take things a lot more personally. You don't really understand that the other person is not really ready. At least I did. I took it very personally. I felt like she didn't want to be close. She didn't want to hold hands. She didn't want to kiss. So I was worried about what is wrong with me? What is going on here, okay? Now, the second part of this event is that my friend, who was really, really close with me, got incredibly jealous because I was spending time with my girlfriend and he just couldn't stand it. And I felt torn apart between spending time with my friend, making sure that he knew that I loved him, but of course I also wanted to spend time with my girlfriend. And since I was so sensitive, I took his jealousy and his judgment very personally. It hurt me a lot. I was trying to make him feel better, trying to soothe him, trying to let him know that no, you're not, he always said, I'm second place, I'm not as important to you anymore. But I didn't have the guts to tell him, yes, you are second place now, deal with it. I didn't say it, I was scared to hurt his feelings. So I was trying to make him feel like he was not the second place. And as that happened, the relationship started to deteriorate a little bit. I felt like she's not really that much into me anymore. She feels a little bit aloof. And when I tried to I remember one day when we went to her house and I wanted to get intimate with her, she rejected me. And I felt crushed because of that. I felt completely crushed because I took it extremely personally. Again, I thought it was because I was not good enough or not attractive enough, or just, she was not into me that much. And so the deterioration of this relationship and my friend being extremely jealous eventually caused me to not know what to do with this. And I decided to go talk with my girlfriend and ask her, what is wrong, what's up, because I felt like something was off. And she told me that I am no longer in love with you for 1 month. And I couldn't believe that she stayed with me for 1 complete month without telling me. And I was just torn apart because I felt lied to. I felt like she was not real, not authentic, not honest about her feelings. But of course, she was scared to tell me. Now, because I took my friend's judgment personally and because she was no longer into me, I thought I spent too much time with my friend and not enough with her. And so it was my fault that she was no longer into me. And all this mess was at some point too much for me. I couldn't deal with it. And so I gradually started to shift my attention towards the things that I could control. I felt totally out of control because my girlfriend didn't feel attracted to me, nor my best friend, after I broke up with my girlfriend, a week later, he got into a relationship with another girl from my class, and all of a sudden, I didn't exist anymore. He dropped me like a brick. And I was so angry at him, so incredibly angry at him, because I felt like I am trying my best to maintain a relationship with you. My relationship with my girlfriend is deteriorating because of that, and now you drop me like a brick. What? How could you do this? I felt so angry, and I felt unable to control other people. So I tried to control the things that I felt in control at, which was my food intake. I started to really focus on the things that I ate, or more importantly, not ate. And I started to gradually drop weight over the months until at some point I looked so skinny that everyone in my surroundings started to ask questions. They were getting worried. My parents asking me, what's going on? You seem so unhealthy. And I think I dropped half of my weight in less than half a year. And at some point I realized, okay, there is a problem here because I can't really seem to control myself anymore. I can't get myself to eat. I am so obsessed about food that I can't get out of this anymore. And then I realized there is a problem. I need to do something about this. And I went to see a therapist and I got diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. My weight dropped further down to 39 kilos. I was 17 years old and I was weighing 39 kilos. I was skin over bone, extremely unhealthy, extremely weak. And so I needed to get hospitalized because otherwise the doctor told me I would die. My heart would literally stop beating because I was so weak. And so I got into hospital. They forced me to eat there. It was a terrible experience because in such an environment, if you put someone who is extremely sensitive and it feels like they're just brushing over it with like a huge brush. They don't really take you into consideration. They're not really specifically geared towards you. I remember a therapist trying to teach us assertivity training, so being able to speak up for yourself, because a lot of people there were not able to speak up for themselves. It's a big problem for people with anorexia that they are just very weak. They have very weak boundaries. They're very strong in their discipline, but they have very weak boundaries. And so she treated us as if we were bad people who were causing other people trouble. And I took that so personally. There was so much, it was so unjust. My sense of justice is incredibly strong. And whenever somebody treats others or me with injustice, I get incredibly angry, very, very angry. Now, to bring it back a little bit to how I grew up, my parents were not really comfortable with anger and expressing anger. So I never really learned to express anger, which is why when you don't learn to express certain emotions, they turn inwards. They cause all sorts of, they foster, they create ulcers. And this is exactly what happened. I got so angry at my friend, I wasn't able to express it. I got so angry at the therapist, I wasn't able to express it. I got so angry at so many things, and I felt so out of control. And I started to become extremely resentful towards people because I felt like I cannot control anything, and the only thing I want is to be understood, to be seen, to be appreciated, to be cared for. Everyone wants to feel like they belong. Everyone wants to feel like they are worthy of love and attention. Yet I felt so unworthy of love and attention. And I started to cycle more and more into the depths, into the darkness. And I went through a depression that lasted 6-7 years. My eating disorder lasted 6-7 years. Very dark period of my life. And I remember imagine this, not being able to laugh because you're so unhappy. You're trying to laugh, but you literally can't because you're so unhappy. It's not possible. You want to laugh. I was forcing my laughs. I was trying to laugh, but I couldn't because I was so unhappy that the hormones, everything, it just didn't work. Now, a few years later, last year of high school, one of the girls in my class, as a presentation of the end of the year, she did a monologue so everybody has different projects, and she chose to perform a monologue. And she expressed herself in that monologue as someone who didn't feel like she belonged in the class. She was very lonely. She felt like she was a wallflower. Nobody really paid attention to her. And I saw her performance. And as she was performing this, I started to cry. I literally started to cry because I felt like she understands what it feels like. She literally acted out the way I felt my whole teenage years during high school. And so I decided to go talk to her afterwards and telling her, I am so grateful that you showed this because it allows me to accept the fact that I felt the same way. I'm not abnormal. It's not weird for me to feel the way I did because you feel the same way. And that was the first time I was able to express this feeling because I was so ashamed of feeling the way I did. I was so ashamed for feeling this anger, for feeling this resentment, for feeling like I was weak, I was small, I couldn't speak up, I couldn't stand up for myself. Okay, I was very ashamed. And that was the first time I felt called to talk about it. And so that set in a chain of events that eventually led me to talk to more people in my class. And they showed so much love and care and appreciation for me. They wanted to support me. They saw something was wrong, something was off. I was so weak, and they could see it, obviously. And they wanted to help. And that was the first time that I felt like people actually saw me. They really understood. They really wanted to help. And that was the first crucial part in my personal transformation that shifted my awareness to, okay, I am worthy. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to be surrounded by people who care for me. And so that was the first moment I started to eat again. I started to gain weight again. And so mental disorders, mental health is really, eating disorders, for example, they are rooted in mental health problems. They are rooted in the need to feel loved. They are rooted in feelings of unworthiness. And so there is a lot of misconception about eating disorders, I think, from people that say, oh, but they just don't want to eat, or they just want attention, or it's social media. It's not, none of that, okay? It's really about how this person perceives the world, and in my case, it was a form of gaining control over myself. Now, after I started to eat again, the first year in university was incredibly excited. I was elated, okay? Because there were new people. I remember somebody cracked a joke, and I started laughing from the depths of my core. And I was so amazed. This is what it feels like to laugh like this. It was incredible. Like I hadn't laughed for 6 years straight. Imagine laughing for the first time from the depths of your being, just feeling elated, amazing, incredible experience. And so I went through university, making a lot of new friends, because I've always been a social person. I've always been interested in people. I've always wanted to connect, to understand, curious. But since there was so much going on, too much input, too much sensitivity, I couldn't deal with it. I shut down. I collapse and I hide in shame. Now, everyone has the desire to be loved, to be appreciated, to get validation, okay, to feel attractive. I believe that it's in every one of us. Now, since I felt like these 6 years of my life, I didn't really do the things that teenagers are supposed to do. I didn't really experiment. I didn't really go out. I was so obsessed with my eating disorder that I felt like the next few years in university were my time to catch up. I literally felt like I need to catch up now. So I started to experiment and explore and do all kinds of crazy things. And I developed some kind of behavior that made me want to please others because I was not able to take their judgment. I was constantly trying to make them feel okay when they invited me to say yes. You know, no personal boundaries, whatsoever, because again, I wanted to feel that they appreciated me, that they loved me. But deep inside, when you say yes all the time and you allow people to cross your boundaries over and over again, you grow resentful because you want to be able to draw boundaries, but you feel like you're not able to. And initially, it's towards other people. You feel like they're crossing your boundaries. But when you go deeper, you understand that you are resentful towards yourself for not speaking up, for not being strong, for not telling other people where you draw the line. And that led me to develop very unhealthy behaviors, very toxic behaviors, okay? Trying to be someone I'm not. Trying to experiment with, you know, I wanted to be the cool fuckboy type, or the cool this, or the popular this and that. I experiment with all these personas. But deep down inside, I felt like this is not right. I was still suffering. I was not true to myself. And I suffered for that. Because if people like you for someone you're not, then deep inside you know that it's not resonating with who you are at your core. And so you cannot take it personally. You cannot absorb their appreciation because it's not you. It's not who you are. It's someone else. So you can never feel like I'm a little bit out of focus here. So you can never feel like people truly appreciate you for you, okay? Now, I'm a little bit, I lost my train of thought. It's okay. Yeah, can I have a glass of water? Thank you, brother.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Guys. Yeah, it's... oh, yeah, thanks, Mo. So this is my first speech, kind of, and I try to prepare it a lot beforehand, but of course, when the event is happening in of itself, it's a different story. So, let me gather my thoughts here.
You can pet the dog if you can.
It's okay. I appreciate it.
You're doing great. So yes.
I very much appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. So, what I want to say is that I believe that everyone has a blueprint. We grew up, we have different experiences, we get hurt, we get rejected, people betray us, people make us see all kinds of ugly things. And we want to believe that these ugly things are not inside us. We want to believe that we are decent people. We would never do that. Other people hurt us, such bad people. But I believe that everyone has the ability, the capacity to behave like this, to engage in hurtful behaviors, to lie, to manipulate, to do ugly things. And my journey has been integrating the desire to be appreciated by other people without engaging in ways or tactics to get that validation or to get their attention, but to actually own up to who I am, who I always have been, and to accept that a few people will not resonate with that. That's totally okay. You can't be everyone's friend. That's impossible. And it's even a bit preposterous to want that. You have to humble yourself at some point and understand that you can be everyone's friend and you don't have to. Okay? So I try to fit in different groups of people, try to find who I actually am and try to manipulate the situation into something that I felt like I had control over, because I always had a problem with control. That's why I ended up having an eating disorder. That's why I ended up trying to manipulate people into liking me. But of course that doesn't work. It never works. People feel forced, and that's not genuine. And growing up, going through this process, I came to understand that to be appreciated because you are yourself, to be appreciated because people genuinely are interested in you, is so much more powerful than you trying to get something or trying to force it into getting what you want. Because it's not authentic, it's not genuine, and it loses its value. The real value of love is that you can't force it. You truly can't force someone to love you. You can't do that. And I had to learn over the years that this is not possible. Now, what is really important to understand is that you can't force someone to love you, but you also can't force yourself to love yourself. And the other world is nothing but a reflection of your inner experiences. So if you view the world as enemies, if you view the world as judgmental, if you view the world as trying to get at you, then that is how you will respond. Then that is how you will behave. And so your beliefs will be reflected in the reality that you live. Now, if you turn that around and you come to understand that being sensitive and feeling a lot of things is not a bad thing. It's not something to feel ashamed about. I felt so ashamed because I was so sensitive. I felt so ashamed. So ashamed. So, the reason why I call this talk authenticity is because right now I feel that I am starting to find my voice. And coming to this event, speaking about my experiences, being nervous about it, scared, is a step in the right direction. It's a way for me to let everyone know that I am an extremely sensitive person, and that doesn't mean that you need to be careful with me. But what I want to do in this life is to form meaningful, intimate relationships with people who connect with one another on a deeper level than just physical attractiveness or just intellect. I mean it in a heart-to-heart way, in a spiritual way, in an energetic way. So I guess I will end this story with that. Thank you very much.
Okay, so in the end, my camera died, and luckily I have a few shots from Patrick capturing the last few minutes of the speech. And basically what I was talking about is that I felt so ashamed of my sensitivity. I felt so ashamed of my emotionality. I felt as if I was too much, always. And I finally came to understand that it's a strength. It's a beautiful thing. It is something that the world can appreciate. It's something that I can appreciate. And I no longer feel this shame for the sensitivity. I now can truly express that I am a sensitive man, okay? I enjoy witnessing beauty. I enjoy being emotional. And that's a good thing, okay? Some people will not resonate with that, other people will. That's perfectly fine, okay? You don't have to be everyone's friend. That's not what you're supposed to do here. And so me going on that event, doing the speech that I did, was the first step, or one of many steps, in order for me to fully own my story and to share who I am authentically, so you can feel inspired doing the same. Because I know that many of us, hypersensitive people especially, we feel judged and shamed because of our sensitivity. And I want you to not feel judged and shamed. I don't want you to feel alone with this. I want you to be able to see it as a good thing, and I want to create a community where you can express yourself. And me taking the step to get out of my comfort zone, talk about these things, can hopefully inspire you to do the same, or to do something similar, whatever it may be for you, okay? Putting your creativity out there, sharing it with other people, connecting. That's what I want to achieve with this talk. And I hope that you can see that I am also learning and growing. I'm not perfect, and I don't pretend to be perfect, okay? I'm tired and sick of pretending to be perfect, or of having to be perfect. I want to show that I am a sensitive man, and that I'm comfortable with that, and that it doesn't mean that you have to treat me with care and be super careful. No, we sensitive people, we are resourceful. Okay, we can be very strong. There is no need to treat us as if we are about to break. That's not what it's about. It's more about being aware that hypersensitive people pick up on things that you might not necessarily be aware of, or that other people might not necessarily be aware of, and that can cause us to feel overloaded. It can cause us to feel ashamed. And I want to remove that shame. Okay, I want to remove that shame, that stigma, and especially men who are hypersensitive can have a difficult time in today's society. So I want to remove that stigma by speaking up, by sharing my story, and I hope that you found it inspiring and helpful. And I'm very sad to not be able to show you the last minutes of the talk, because there was a lot of authenticity being shared there with the crowd, with the audience. They were asking very, very thoughtful, profound questions that I deeply appreciated, and they gave me a chance to express myself even further. So I hope that next time when I do a talk like this, people ask questions, and I will film everything so you can enjoy all the information that I share with the people, and all the energy that I share with the people, so you can hopefully learn something from this, okay? I want to thank you so much for being here with me. It was a fantastic experience for me. I learned so much from it, and I hope you did too, all right? And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.